Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayadmudirahe Nashtaprahishu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati No Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text number 10. The chapter is titled Further Inquiries by Vidura. Yad arthena vinhamusya pumsa atma viparyaya pratiyate upadrastu swasira chedana chedana adikiyaka yad arthena vinhamusya pumsa atma viparyaya pratiyata upadrastu swasira chedana adika यदार्थेन विनामस्य पुंस आत्मविपर्यय प्रतीयत उपद्रष्टु स्वशीरचेदन आदिक yet thus arthena a purpose or meaning vina without amusya of such a one pumshaha of the living entity Atma Viparyayaha, upset about self-identification. Pratiyate, so appear, upadrastu, of the superficial onlooker. Swasira, own head. Chedana adikaha, cutting off. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. The living entity is in distress regarding his self-identity. He has no factual background, like a man who dreams that he sees his head cut off. Purport. A teacher in school once threatened his pupil that he would cut off the pupil's head and hang it on the wall so that the child could see how his head had been cut off. The child became frightened and stopped his mischief. Similarly, the miseries of the pure soul and the disruption of his self-identification are managed by the external energy of the Lord, which controls those mischievous living entities who want to go against the will of the Lord. Actually, there is no bondage or misery for the living entity, nor does he ever lose his pure knowledge. In his pure consciousness, when he thinks a little seriously about his position, he can understand that he is eternally subordinate to the mercy of the Supreme, and that his attempt to become one with the Supreme Lord is a false illusion. Life after life, the living entity falsely tries to lord it over material nature and become the lord of the material world. But there is no tangible result. At last, when frustrated, he gives up his material activities and tries to become one with the Lord and speculate with much jugglery of words, but without success. These activities are performed under the direction of the illusory energy. The experience is compared to the experience of once having his head cut off in a dream. The man whose head has been cut off also sees that his head has been cut off. If a person's head is severed, he loses his power to see. Therefore, if a man sees that his head has been cut off, it means that he thinks like that in hallucination. Similarly, a living entity is eternally subordinate to the Supreme Lord, and he has this knowledge with him. But artificially he thinks that he is God himself, and that although he is God, he has lost his knowledge due to Maya. This conception has no meaning, just as there is no meaning to seeing one's head being cut off. This is the process by which knowledge is covered. And because this artificial rebellious condition of the living entity gives him all troubles, it is to be understood that he should take to his normal life as a devotee of the Lord and be relieved from misconception of being God. The so called liberation of thinking oneself God is that last reaction of avidya by which the living entity is entrapped. The conclusion is that a living entity deprived of eternal transcendental service of the Lord becomes illusioned in many ways. Even in his conditional life, he is the eternal servant of the Lord. His servitude under the spell of illusory Maya is also a manifestation of his eternal condition of service. Because he has rebelled against the service of the Lord, he is therefore put into the service of Maya. He is still serving, but in a perverted manner. When he wants to get out of service under material bondage, he next desires to become one with the Lord. This is another illusion. The best course, therefore, is to surrender unto the Lord and thus get rid of the illusory Maya for good, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 14th verse. Daivi esha gunamai mama mamam duratteya mameva ye prapadante mahyam etam tarantite. Om Agnanatimindasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurmitandhena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manabhistam Sapitamena Bhutale Swamrupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hare Krishna. Verse again. Yad arthena vinamushya pumsha atma viparyeha pratiyata upadrastu swasira chedana adikaha. The living entity is in distress regarding his self-identity. He has no factual background, like a man who dreams that he sees his head cut off. So here, in this chapter, the conversation of Vidur Maharaj and Maitra Muni continues, where in the beginning of the chapter, Vidur Maharaj is asking few questions to Maitreya Muni, right? And those questions is detailed in the earlier verses of this chapter, from first verse to fifth verse, that the living entity who is spiritual and pure by constitution, right? This living entity is spiritual and pure by constitution, is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And he can see his past, present, and future, right? Then how come he can be covered by ignorance? Right? How can a living entity be covered by ignorance? Right? Or how can an eternal soul who can become neither contaminated, right? Eternal soul who can become neither contaminated nor impure, be unable to remember his identity, self-identity, Atma Viparyaya, right? In these words, Pumsa Atma Viparyaya means the living entity forgetting his self-identity. So the second question is asking. And then he also asks about the relationship between the super soul and the living entities, with the super soul in the heart as a constant companion. right? The super soul is within the heart as a constant companion. The soul and the super soul both resides in the region of the heart. Then how can the living entity activity continuously result in misfortune and misery? Right. We say man proposes, God disposes. Then how come a living entity's activity result in misfortune and misery? Why is he always in distress? Right. Why is he always in distress? And Maitra Muni is answering these wonderful questions of Vidul Maharaj in these verses, especially verse 8 to 14. And last words, he explained about the position of the Supreme Lord. And here is explaining about this living entity, so-called falling in illusion. Right. That living entity by nature is Satchidananda, full of eternality, full of knowledge, full of bliss. Because it is a fragmental part of the Supreme Lord, part and parts of the Supreme Lord. And now it is so-called covered by ignorance. Right. The tamas. It is covered by ignorance. And an analogy is given as if he sees his head cut off. Right. And Srila Prabhupada further elaborates on that analogy, just like a teacher in school to chastise, to instill fear at times to the student that he does not commit mischief. He says, if you will commit mischief, I will I'll cut off your head and hang it on the wall so that you can see how your head is cut off. Right. But in actuality, a person cannot see his head cut off. Right. Because once his head is severed, he loses his power of sight. So he can never see his head cut off. He's seeing his head cut off is like a hallucination. He's seeing his head cut off is like hallucination. Right. That, oh, my head is cut off. Oh, no. So that's a dream situation that his head is cut off. Similarly, a living entity covered by this modes of material nature, a pure consciousness covered by this modes of material nature is illusory. It's illusory. Right. But that does not mean that the living entity is illusory. Or the supreme soul or the super soul, in that illusory state, he becomes Jivatma or the living entity. And when he becomes enlightened, he again becomes Paramatma. No. It's the Mayavadi philosophy. It instills all this. That a soul lodges into a material nature and becomes the Supreme Lord. Right. He lodges into a material nature and he thinks that, oh, I'm the Supreme Lord. That's illusion. To think himself as a Supreme Lord is illusion. Left and right is suffering these material miseries, and he has no way to come out of those material miseries. But still, lording into a material nature in illusion, he thinks, oh, I am the Supreme Lord. And when further Srila Prabhupada explains that when he, in his pursuit of thinking himself as a Supreme Lord, or lording into a material nature, if he fails, then he takes his subordinate position, which is also illusion, where he thinks that I am one with the Lord. Now I'm not the Lord, but I'm one with the Lord. Right. That situation is also illusion. The real situation is we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Right. The Lord in Bhagavad Gita mentions Tribi Gunamai Bhavai Evi Idam Saram Vikatam Mohitam Nabi Janati Mamebhyam Panavayam. That these three modes of material nature I have created. And though I have created that, I'm inexhaustible. The whole world is bewildered by it. Right? The whole world is bewildered by it. They come under the influence of these modes of material nature because of the rebellious situation that I want to enjoy separately from the Lord. Right. Why is it rebellious? The real situation is, uh, by nature, it is blissful. By nature, the soul is blissful and full of knowledge and full of eternality. It never dies. Full of eternality. It is eternal. And eternally, the servant of the Lord. Eternally, the servant of the Lord. But the moment it forgets that situation, right, coming, then it becomes rebellious. You know, why I should be a servant? Why not the master? Right? Why I have to enjoy or feel bliss in serving the Lord? Let me be the enjoy myself without uh, in relationship with the Lord, right? And then in that rebellious situation, the Lord says, "Okay, try it out." And Nitya Baddha, eternally conditioned, then he uh, tries it, tries to lord it over material nature. He fails in his pursuit for so many lifetimes, and again he goes on trying. Right? Till a time comes, Brahmande Brahmite Kuno Bhagyavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasada Pai, Bhakti Lata Bija. Right? After wandering in this material universe for so many lifetimes, a fortunate soul gets the mercy of the spiritual master and the Supreme Lord. That Bhakti Lata Bija, the devotional creeper, is sown within his heart. Otherwise, he wanders around um, and feels himself that, I am the Lord, or I am one with the Lord. Right? He wanders around in this material world for so many lifetimes. Just like Swasira Chedana Adi Kaha. And then he sees himself, right? That, his head is cut off. Right? Otherwise, a devotee of the Lord is completely situated in the service of the Lord. Is completely situated in the service of the Lord. But in his illusory condition, his knowledge and bliss is covered. Right? The source eternality still remains, but his knowledge and bliss is covered by these three modes of material nature. And that drags him. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions that as the behind of the Lord, right, is like darkness in ignorance. Right. The behind of the Lord is like in ignorance. If you forget the position of if you forget the Lord, which is like behind of the Lord, you are in nescience, ignorance. But in presence of the Lord, no, there is no presence of nescience. Krishna Surya Sama, right? Maya Andhakar. Yahan Krishna wahan nahi Maya Adhikar. Right? Krishna is like sun. Maya Andhakar. Maya is ignorance. Yahan Krishna, wahan nahi Maya Adhikar. Wherever there is presence of the Supreme Lord, where we perceive the Supreme Lord, right? Where we perceive the Supreme Lord, there is no presence of darkness. Right? There is no presence of darkness. where there is no presence of being covered by the modes of material nature. Mahadevi, the servant, close servant of the Supreme Lord, otherwise makes you fall into this illusory trap to facilitate your being rebellious, right? Because a living entity has that free will, right? A minute free will is there, that either he can serve the Supreme Lord or he can serve the energy of the Supreme Lord. So he's taking the decision that, oh, in both situations he's serving. It's just that in the second serving, he's put into an illusory state that, oh, I'm not serving, I'm the master, but he's still serving, right? He's serving his senses left and right, and he thinks, oh, I'm the master of the senses, right? His senses is driving him, right? His senses is driving him to commit all kinds of sinful activities, driving him more to be covered in illusion. But he's thinking, oh, no, I'm the master of the senses. I can do whatever I want. I don't need to be covered by, no, I'm not covered by illusion. I'm the Lord. No, the senses are driving him, right? Just like the example given of a chariot uh, with these 5 horses. If the horses are not, the reins of the horses are not controlled, what would happen? The horses will go in different directions. And that's how a living entity trapped in this material nature is driven by a constant onslaught of sense gratification. Right? Is driven by sense gratification. And that's the cause of his misfortune and the cause of his suffering. Why is he continuously suffering? Right? Because of his identification with the material body. His identification of the material body, Atma Viparyaya, he forgets his self-identity. That he is a spirit soul, he is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. The moment he forgets that, that's the cause of his misfortune and misery. Right? Like that example given of this person being chased by an elephant, and then he climbs up the tree, and then he it's on the tree, sees a tiger, and then he goes on that branch. At the bottom, he sees snakes and scorpions. On the top, he sees this beehive, right? And with the movement of the branch, it starts being scattered, and they are constantly biting him. And the branch is constantly uh, being scratched by 2 rats, a black color rat and a white color rat. And the elephant is trying to uproot the tree. And here Krishna is asking him, on one side, Krishna is there calling him back, but he still, just as he scatters that the beehive, there is 1 drop of honey which falls, and it falls on his lip, and he's thinking, it's so pleasurable. Though he is continuously surrounded by misfortune, by miseries in form of Adhyatmika miseries caused by one's own mind, Adhibhautika miseries caused by the living entity, Adhidaivika miseries caused by natural calamities. He's continuously surrounded by these miseries. Left and right he's being bitten by either the scorpion or the bees or the fear of death day and night, right? Oh, let me be in isolation, fear of death. Let me be in isolation, pandemic, this, that, fear of death. Right? Uh, miseries are all around us, especially in the last couple of years. We are shaken up. Miseries all around us. Yudhishthira Maharaj is asked this question, what is the most amazing thing? And Yudhishthira Maharaj is mentioning, the most amazing thing is, at each and every moment we see death around us and we think that that's not going to happen to us. That's the most amazing thing. We see death all around us. The morgues, the hospitals, everywhere is filled with patients and dead bodies. We see death all around us, but we still think that it is not going to happen to us. And we don't take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And still in our rebellious situation, we think, oh, no. One day this will go away, this vaccine, that vaccine will be completely inoculated and everything will go away. All our miseries will end. Right. And life will be as normal as before, where we'll again be joyously enjoying our senses. But a devotee of the Lord, continuously serving the Lord, whatever situation he is not perturbed by material situations. He's not perturbed by material situations. Right? He's not perturbed by material situations. The moment we are continuously, we should be ready to do service. Satatam kirtan tamam. Right. Yeah. Are there any reflections or questions at this particular time?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, we have Yogamaya and Mahamaya.
Yes.
And each of the Matajis perform a function for Krishna.
Yeah.
So Yogamaya, Mahamaya covers us with illusion. That's her role.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she also is full of knowledge, correct?
Yeah.
But her function is to cover us in illusion.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Atma, who's also full of knowledge, today's class, as you said, we get covered by Mahamaya,
yeah,
which is her role. But then it's something like, I'm looking at, if I make an analogy of knowledge is like light. So even if I have a small matchstick and I take it into a deep, dark cave, there is still light because light destroys darkness. So how is it that if I'm full of knowledge, even when I come in contact with Mahamaya, that I can get covered by darkness?
Yeah, good question. That the light is within me, but still that shows that light is there, the spark is there, but it is infinitesimal, right? Very minute. Just like the sun is there right now. Today here it's a little bit cloudy. It's covered by the clouds. That does not mean that the sun is covered. Right. Or the sun's potency is less. Right. It's just that it's temporarily covered by the cloud. Similarly, a living entity, because he desires, it is desiring, just like, Bhagavad Gita session last Friday, it is desiring to be separate from the Lord. So the Lord's energy, right, Bahirangi Shakti, Lord's external energy covers the living entity. Okay, you want to enjoy? In factually, you won't be able to enjoy separately from the Lord. Right. knowing very well that, oh, miss, you have the loving family, father and mother, no, means, and there's so much happiness serving them. Actually, if you want to be separated from them and separately enjoy to be rebellious, you have to forget their loving nature, right? So actually, you won't be able to enjoy. But to facilitate your desire that you want to enjoy separately from that, you are covered by that extra energy. Just like the sun is covered by the cloud, right?
So what gets covered, Prabhu? My consciousness, my
My
awareness,
consciousness,
my chit aspect.
yeah, my consciousness basically gets covered. It starts identifying with the body, right? It
Okay.
starts identifying with the body. What is pain and pleasure? For the soul, there is no pain and pleasure. Nainam chindanti satsani, nainam dahati pavaka, right? It cannot be cut by weapons, it cannot be burned by fire, it cannot be moistened by water or withered by the wind. So why then we are still having pains and pleasures? Because we are
Yeah, that's
identifying ourselves,
yeah.
right? I am identifying myself with the body. Now the body itself, lump of matter, does not have pain and pleasure also. It does not feel cold when it is the dead body is stored in a freezer or refrigerator, right? Or it is cut by the medical professionals, right? It does not feel the pain. It's lump of matter. So what is feeling the pain then? The soul identification with the body is feeling the pain, right? Your consciousness covered, identifying itself with the body is feeling the pain. Like a devotee of the Lord, Mukam Karoti Vacham, Pangam Langa Tegiri, right? Blame situation, the situation also is crossing mountains. It's not feeling the pain. That we see this personality is Bhuvaneshwar Prabhu or Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu. Even in their frail situation, they are on continuously serving the Lord, right? So, that temporary thinking, oh, it's a painful situation. It's being cleared when you are continuously serving the Lord. Like last weekend, we had Rath Yatra and all those. No, so pain was not while you are serving. Pain is when you are not serving. Oh, now my body is aching. Like Amar Jagannath was mentioning, oh, my body. Still recovering, my body is aching. But no, the weekend you was not aching because you were serving continuously. The pain does not come when you are serving the Supreme Lord. Pain comes when you're not serving the Supreme Lord. When the muscles are in more relaxed situation, then oh, body starts aching. Right? Is that okay?
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's 7:02 for the discussion. We can take in the Nitya Bhagavata Sevya group. Thank you very much. We will like to wish you all a safe and Krishna conscious day ahead. We would like to offer the prayers to the Supreme Lord that we always remain in the light of the Supreme Lord and enlightened by the Supreme Lord. We seek His shelter by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
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 Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare
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 Rama,
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 Hare
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 Rama,
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 Rama
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 Rama,
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 Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare.
Hare
Hare